I remember the day like it just happened. Gray sky, biting wind, that sharp November chill that sneaks through your coat no matter how tight you wrap it. I had picked up my son, Elijah, from school. He's 9, curious, kind, and a little too brave for his own good. We were walking through downtown to catch the bus when we passed a man sitting by the bus stop. You know, the kind most people pretend not to see. Wrapped in an old military jacket, hair unkempt, boots cracked open at the soles. He sat against the brick wall, his head bowed, holding a cardboard sign that simply read, "Vietnam, still here." People walked by. Some glanced. Some looked through him. No one stopped, except Elijah. He tugged on my hand and said, "Dad, he's a soldier." I looked down. "He used to be, buddy." "He still is," Elijah said. And then, before I could say anything, he let go of my hand, walked up to the man, and held out his own. "Hi, sir. Thank you for serving." The man looked up, startled. His face was worn, eyes hollow, like he hadn't heard his own name in weeks. He stared at Elijah's hand, like it was something sacred. And then he shook it. "Bless you, son," he said, barely above a whisper. Elijah sat down next to him, right there on the sidewalk. I froze. "Eli, come on, buddy, let's not bother." "We're not bothering him, Dad," Elijah said. "He's cold." That's how it started. I ended up sitting down too. We shared the bag of fries we had, and the veteran told us his name, Robert Finch. He'd served 2 tours in Vietnam, lost his brother there, and came home to a country that never welcomed him back. He worked construction, lost everything when the company folded. And now he was invisible. "Elijah," he said, holding the boy's hand, "you're the first person who's called me sir in 10 years. The next day, Elijah told the story in school. His teacher was moved. She shared it online. The post went viral. Within 48 hours, a local news station called me. They wanted to film a segment. Elijah said yes, but only if Mr. Robert gets to be on camera too. They filmed them together on the same bench, Elijah holding a paper cup of coffee, Robert holding back tears. It aired that evening. The next day, everything changed. By the next morning, I had over 30 voicemails on my phone. There were calls from local churches, veteran organizations, journalists, people I'd never met. Everyone wanted to know about the boy who sat with a forgotten soldier. Elijah's story struck a nerve, not because it was sensational, but because it was real. People didn't just share the video. They wrote to us. One letter came from a woman in Kansas. "My father was a Vietnam vet. He died alone. Your son gave someone else's father the dignity he never got." Robert, Mr. Finch, was moved into a shelter the next day, but not for long. A group of former Marines saw the story and pooled money together. They rented him a small apartment near the VA hospital. Someone donated a coat. Someone else got him new boots. But the most unbelievable part came a week later. It was a Thursday morning. Elijah was brushing his teeth when the doorbell rang. I opened it to find a man in a dark gray suit with a small flag pin on his lapel. "Mr. Hines?" he asked. "Yes." He pulled out a letter. Real paper. Real envelope. Stamped with the presidential seal. "Elijah is being formally invited to Washington," he said, smiling. "The president would like to meet him." Elijah couldn't believe it. Neither could I. But there it was, an invitation to the National Veterans Day ceremony. Elijah would be recognized as an honorary young ambassador of gratitude. "I didn't do anything," Elijah kept saying. "You saw someone," I said, "and that's more than most ever do." We flew to D.C. 2 days before the ceremony. A car picked us up from the airport. A suit-clad aide handed Elijah a small pin, a golden eagle with the inscription, "We see you." And then, the most unexpected thing happened. At our hotel, waiting in the lobby, was Robert, clean-shaven, hair trimmed, standing straight, dressed in a suit that actually fit him. "I couldn't let you do this alone, kid," he said. Elijah ran to him and hugged him like he was family. Maybe he was. The Veterans Day ceremony was held in a grand white hall with velvet ropes and golden chairs. Flags lined every wall: Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Coast Guard. It felt bigger than life. When we entered, people turned. They didn't know Elijah by name, but they knew his story. The security guards nodded to him. One of the generals came over and said, "You remind me why I signed up to serve." Elijah just smiled awkwardly and held my hand a little tighter. Then the announcer's voice filled the room. "Please welcome, representing the spirit of gratitude and remembrance, Elijah Hines." The room went silent. He walked slowly to the podium, his small hands gripping the edges. The microphone had to be lowered. He stood there, nervous, looking out at rows of decorated officers, lawmakers, and press. He cleared his throat. "I met Mr. Robert at a bus stop. No one else said anything. I just said hello. I said thank you. I didn't know it would matter." He paused, looking over at Robert in the front row, tears streaming down his face. But it did matter, because now people see him. And maybe next time they'll see someone else too. You could hear people crying. The president himself rose and walked over. He didn't say anything. He just placed his hand on Elijah's shoulder and turned him toward the cameras. The applause didn't stop. After the ceremony, we were invited into a private room. The president knelt down to Elijah's level. "You reminded us that we have heroes all around us," he said. "We just stopped looking." He handed Elijah a box. Inside, a custom medallion with the presidential seal. On the back, it read, "To the boy who made America look again." Robert came home with us after that. We helped him set up the apartment. Elijah visited him every weekend. They played checkers, talked about books, ate pancakes, and every time we passed someone on the street holding a cardboard sign, Elijah looked at me and said, "We should say something. It could be another Mr. Robert." And we always did. By Elijah Hines, age 32. I still remember the way his hand felt. Rough, warm, real. I remember sitting next to him on that cold sidewalk, with people walking past us like we weren't even there. I remember the way my dad tried to stop me, how the wind caught his voice and made it softer than it really was. But most of all, I remember how Mr. Robert looked at me, not like I was a little kid, not like I was bothering him, but like I saw him when no one else did. That moment became a scar on my memory, not one of pain, but of purpose. It was the first time I realized how powerful kindness could be, how dangerous silence could become, and how sometimes the smallest things, a handshake, a smile, a word, can echo for years. I didn't grow up to be famous. I didn't become a politician or a CEO. I became a teacher. I teach 5th grade in the same school where I once told my story about the man in the military jacket. Some of my students know, others don't. But every November, I tell them about that day, about the man who had nothing and the boy who gave something anyway. We talk about gratitude, about how it's not just saying thank you, but acting like you mean it, about how courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a 9-year-old sitting on the ground next to a forgotten soldier. Mr. Robert lived for another 13 years. He saw every Veterans Day after that one. He spoke at high schools. He got clean. He made peace with parts of his life I'll never understand. And when he passed, we buried him with full military honors. Flag, salutes, 21 guns, the whole deal. He had no blood family left, but I stood there, hand on the casket, as they folded the flag and handed it to me. "Next of kin," the officer said. I didn't correct him. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't stopped that day. If I'd just kept walking, like everyone else. If I'd looked away. If I'd believed the voice inside that says, "He's not your problem." But I didn't. And that one choice, that tiny, ordinary human decision, changed the trajectory of a man's final years. And changed me forever. The stage at the White House, the pin, the medal, they're in a box in my closet. I don't take them out often, because that's not what matters most. What matters is this: I still look, I still stop, I still say, "Sir, thank you." Because somewhere out there, another Mr. Robert is waiting, and I refuse to be the one who walks past him.